work session of the Richmond Community School Board of Trustees. Everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can have the reading of our mission and vision.
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
The vision statement of Richmond Community Schools is a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, celebrations. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazel Baker join us as communication specialist to introduce our evening's celebration of
Well, a few weeks ago, we had our Excellence in Education. Did I say it right, Lisa? Excellence in Education.
Celebration.
I got all the big words.
So we are going to be celebrating Tori Johnson. She's our teacher of the year. Our secondary teacher of the year is Derek Borsch, and then also administrator of the year, Jamie Thomas, and our support person of the year is Pam Jacob. So if those four, please step up here for me. Any questions for him? Anybody have any questions?
If they could go through and tell us how long they've been with RCS, I think you could start there.
I'm Pam Janko, and I've been with the school system for 36 years. I started out at C.R. Richardson. I was hired by John Bender back in the day. I don't know if anybody remembers him.
I do.
Great guy. I started as a 101 para and went to the high school, then at Everett, and then at CYS, and that's where I continued my journey. So it's been a great
No. That's not what you call ending your journey.
when
That's-
you're
Yeah, right. Now you can celebrate life and enjoy your time.
Yes, I'm excited. I really am. Got a lot of things on my list to get done.
And thank you for serving for so long.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm Jamie Thomas. This is my 18th year with RCS, so I'll follow Pam. My first year I was at Fairview. I was hired by Luann Moore, and then I was displaced, went to Garrison, served under Gwen Gibbs and Kelly Andrews. Garrison closed, went to Star, worked under Stephanie Hoover and Carrie Ann Holtbeek. Was an instructional coach for 13 of the 18 years, and this is my 3rd year at Test. So, and that's where I remain, and that's where I'd like to stay.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Tori Johnson, and I was hired in by Tammy Rhodes, and I'm in my 4th year of teaching. I started at Westfield, and now I'm at Vail with Tammy Stevenson.
I'm Derek Borch. My journey with RHS was really by chance. I previously lived abroad. I moved back in, I think it was October of 2016. I started subbing in the system. And one day in January of 2017, I was subbing actually in an automotive classroom at RHS. And during the prep period, I had to go cover the French class. And I left a short note to my professor at the time saying, this was my classroom when I was a student at RHS. I majored in French in college, and if I can help you out, please let me know. Shortly thereafter, Josh Havens called me and said, would you like to stay for the semester? And then I joined full-time in November of that year. So in November of this year, I will have been there for 5 years. So, and it's the same classroom where I took French to R1 and 2.
Still got that beautiful red carpet too, right?
Yes, I do. It's iconic in the building.
It is.
I think there's only maybe one other classroom that has it. I invite everyone.
And we can't touch her more because it's.
But you're rolling out the red carpet for all of us.
The French flag, red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
So red is appropriate now.
Those are great stories. I don't know if anyone else has any comments or questions.
I'd just like to add that all three of my kids have had Mr. Warch as a teacher, and I appreciate the way he cares for students, works with them. So thank you. And Tori was a past student of mine at IU East, and I'm so happy that she's a fantastic student, but so happy that she stayed in Richmond and working with Richmond Community Schools. So congratulations to all of you.
So share how you found out about your nomination and then the process of it, how that came to fruition.
I didn't. So it was a complete utter surprise. Other than I got an email that said, are you attending tonight? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, I think it was my friend of excellence was being awarded. And so they wanted to make sure that I was there. So a complete surprise to me.
Awesome.
Well, I was completely and utterly shocked. We did it within our building, and then they narrowed it down to 3, and then we went from there. And I knew I was nominated for Vail, and I told my best friend who was also nominated at Westview. I literally looked at her on the stage, and I was like, "This is as far as we're going." And she's like, "Yeah, I think we're good with our building." So yeah, if anybody's seen the embarrassing footage of me out here, it's complete and utter shock.
That's it. End of discussion.
Tori, it was adorable. You were just very.
And it wasn't me this time, because usually it's me. So.
I was actually on my way out of the building, and my department chair came up to me and said, we need to have a chat. So we were talking there in the hallway. He informed me that I was RHS Teacher of the Year. He asked me if I would accept. I remember looking up at the ceiling, and I said, what do I have to do? Because I had received the emails from HR, and I would need to, if I wanted to continue on, put together a portfolio, for example. I simply said yes. So I too was shocked and surprised. It was great.
I was definitely shocked. I was sitting there with Mr. Shineson, sitting beside each other, and I said, do I have to go up there? And he goes, yes. And so I talked it up there. So I really do appreciate your recognition. I really do. 36 years is a long time, and like I said, I'm ready to go on. And
just going out with a bang. Going out with a bang.
Yeah. And the thing is, I remember when some of these guys were in high school, and I remember in the main office and working with some of these guys. So it's been fun. It really has, and it's fun to see them all grow up and having their own families and having their own little ones, and just see it progress. So,
Well, I would just say that each and every year, as we know, faculty and staff definitely exercise countless sacrifices to our Board of Governors or central office leaders, but to be the representation and symbols that capture true essence of great teaching and care. Mr. Ward, Secondary Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Johnson, I love the email, by the way. And as we were on stage there, we thought about asking that you give a speech, but we realized that you were not up for it. But your presence and your service speaks for itself. Mr. Thomas, again, as I mentioned, the courage that you continue to exhibit and what has been endured and experienced. And Mr. Jacob, I say to you for last because you indeed used to hold my hand and walk me through the halls of C.R. Richardson when Dr. Bender, school principal, was looking for me. But between me and Mrs. Meridian Shane, Alina Pennington, Peggy Mitchell, we compared last week. Mr. Comeback, Mrs. Horn, so forth. You definitely have been doing it for a long time for a lot of people. So tremendous all of it.
Moving on to item 3, for commentary, Mrs. Claypool.
L.C. Caraway.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
how many folks do we have?
4.
Okay, 4. I'm just going to read a brief script just so everything's clear. The Board of School Trustees recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on corporation matters. The board wants to ensure that the public feels welcome and that the concerns are answered in a timely, efficient manner. The maximum time for an individual speaker is 5 minutes per person. The board expects personal decorum, factual information from the speaker. The president reserves the right to interrupt the speaker when a statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, and obscene, or if it interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in policy 8130. School board members do not respond to public commentaries during this meeting. The public participant will receive a follow-up email from the board president within a week. Thank you. Mrs. Claypool?
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry to bring up a not so happy sounding topic after the celebration we just had, but I felt that this needed to be addressed. On April 27th, RCS School Board unanimously passed an update to Bylaw 0144.1 compensation, as we all know. This update gives the option to all board members to receive health, vision, dental, and life insurance for $1 a year each, or to receive the usual yearly stipend of $2,000. After this update passed unanimously a second time, despite multiple staff speaking out and a declined request made by the REA to meet and discuss the decision, I felt that it would be enlightening to get a better understanding of how the RCS community feels about this decision and its potential ramifications. I created a survey and distributed it to RCS community members. All participants had the option of completing the survey anonymously, as many staff members feared backlash as a result of voicing their valid concerns. The survey had a total of 102 participants, 55% of whom were anonymous. When asked, do you feel as though this decision will positively affect the Richmond community? 97% of participants said no. When asked, do you feel as though this decision was made with the best interest of all staff and students of RCS in mind? 99% of participants said no. When asked, do you feel as though this decision was made by the board members with no intent for personal benefit? 97% of participants said no. When asked, do you feel as though this decision represents your voice as a community member? 97.1% of participants said no. When asked, has this decision affected how you feel you may vote in future board elections? 82.5% said yes, 15% said not applicable due to not living in the district, and 2.5% said no. These responses are made from people whose lives are directly affected daily by the decisions that you make. These people feel disrespected and ignored by you. Discrepancies in management have become normalized in our school system, and that should not be the case. Board members should hold themselves to high standards of responsibility and morality. You are our public voice, but with this decision, you do not represent our thoughts, our words, or our needs. Your role is to represent and enact the best interest of Richmond Community Schools, and according to over 95% of these community members, you are not doing that. You have created an unjust and unacceptable dichotomy in a community where there should be unity and trust. The decision to pass this bylaw was ill received due to many factors. For one, it came relatively soon after eligible staff members saw a $480 increase yearly in their own insurance payments. Another factor is the lack of attention being brought to the needs of our paraprofessionals and environmental service workers. RCS is losing valuable paras left and right because they feel unheard and undercompensated. One para responded in the survey stating that they would make more money at McDonald's than working for RCS. Every time we lose a para, it stretches thin those we are lucky enough to still have. This has been a concern for quite some time, and when brought up, parents were told that it's not within the budget to give them raises. It's not feasible to provide them with insurance, yet it is feasible to take a potentially considerable sum to pay for the insurance of 7 individuals. These 7 individuals have vitally important roles in RCS. They should be compensated for their services, but they should not be prioritizing themselves or future board members above staff who are in the classrooms every day providing direct support to students and teachers. This is doubly true in times of low budgets. It comes off as inconsiderate and thoughtless to add more financial padding for staff that are by no means struggling when that money could be helping a staff member not have to choose between paying the water bill and getting a tank of gas. Another factor that is worth noting is the monthly transfer from the Education Fund to the Operations Fund authorized by the board. These transfers are authorized to reimburse the Operations Fund for expenses that are not allocated to student instruction and learning.
The education fund pays for all employee compensation or payroll. Just in the first 3 months of this year, the board has approved the transfer to a total sum of $1,035,000 from the education fund into the operations fund. If there has been an excess of over $1 million in a period of 3 months that could have partially been put towards properly compensating hundreds of essential staff, then we should be raising the budget to accommodate instead of simply sending all of the extra funds elsewhere.
I have 1 minute left.
Currently, we are being sent a message that we are not a priority and that our struggles and concerns can wait. Something I find increasingly disturbing is the reluctance many RCS staff feel at the idea of speaking publicly against policies or decisions they disagree with. This reluctance is based in fear, a fear that if they were to speak their minds, there would be harsh repercussions. Staff should never feel the need to avoid addressing any topic out of fear for their jobs and livelihoods. The fact that so many feel this way shows a growing disconnect between the voice of the community and the actions of the board. The definition of leadership is the action of speaking or acting on behalf of someone or the state of being so represented. I think that you all have been in positions of leadership for a long time, or in one way or another. When you're forced to look at the big picture, it is easy to forget the small. Pleas for help or criticisms begin to feel like judgments or attacks. Holding on to your compassion and empathy is one of the hardest things a leader can do. It is also by far the most important. The first thing a leader must know to properly lead is how to communicate and how to be receptive to communication time.
How much more time do you need?
Just 2 sentences. The most important thing for a leader to listen to is their community's voice. We hope that your future decisions will reflect a more inclusive understanding of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Penny Shank. I'm a 1972 graduate, like Lucy is, and we're celebrating our 50th this year. So that shows that we're old. But I'm an alumni from Richmond, but plus I also taught in Richmond Community Schools for 40 years in special education. So this letter tonight that I am reading is from my daughter, Abby, who graduated in 1998, and she couldn't be here because she lives in Fort Wayne, so she asked if I would read it. Okay, start. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to express my devastation that you are doing away with nearly every librarian position in the Richmond Community School Corporation next year and to beg you to reconsider. We live in a literary society. Through second grade, children learn to read. Beyond second grade, they read to learn. Reading is the main way we receive information, learn, and grow. Why on earth would you want to eliminate a position that helps students do just that? The skills they learn from librarians not only help them succeed in school, but they also succeed in society. The interactions kids have with librarians have the potential to touch their lives forever. I fondly remember my librarian at Charles Elementary School, Miss Phyllis Hill, later known as Mrs. Phyllis Spangler. She was amazing. I loved going to the library every week. I loved sitting at her feet with my class as she read us stories. I couldn't wait to look through the shelves each week, checking out my very own books and feeling very responsible when I returned the ones I borrowed the week before. I'd ask Miss Hill for recommendations about whatever topic I was currently obsessed with, and she nearly always knew where to lead me. If she didn't, she'd promise to have something for me by the next week. And she would. She deeply cared for her students, and we knew it. In fourth grade, I was thrilled to be selected as a library helper. I got to stay after school once a week and volunteer in the place I loved the most. Miss Hill taught me how to use the card catalog system to make sure all the books on my assigned shelves were in the right places. Did you know that if a book is shelved incorrectly, it's essentially impossible to find it until someone finds it and puts it in its proper place? It's lost in an endless sea of books. If you do away with librarians, who will find them? The lessons librarians teach go far beyond the bookshelves and last for a lifetime. Librarians foster a love of reading that turns reluctant readers into lifelong learners. They ignite sparks of curiosity that send kids on countless quests for knowledge. They introduce new worlds that encourage creativity and imagination, the very skills kids need to change our world for the better. Librarians are amazing, and they deserve so much better than this. The attacks on public education are strong and constant, but you are in a position to do something about that. You have the power to change this decision. You have the ability to show librarians and students how incredibly valuable they are. Please do the right thing. Support our librarians. Let them continue working in their current positions. The Richmond school system and the entire surrounding community will be better for it. This is signed by Abby Woldridge, pediatric speech language pathologist, currently living in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marianne Avery.
I needed to return tonight because as a Catholic, I speak up when I see injustice. Social justice, examination of conscience, and humility are all important aspects of my faith. At the last meeting, I came focused on lack of health care for support staff and increased costs for the rest of us while the board enjoys dollar premiums, which was hurriedly voted through. Thank you to Ms. Caraway for your eloquent comments on your survey findings. I couldn't hear most of what was said at the last board meeting because of the very low audio level, but only understood the full ramification of the last board meeting afterwards. I return now to say while others will benefit at the building level, the shuffling of central office positions leave many people at the district level, myself included, missing their exemplary servant leadership. Humbly reflecting and admitting that you have made poor choices is also a sign of authentic leadership. This I wrote 2 weeks ago. Sadly, I have more to share after your letter explaining your reasoning for voting yourselves the dollar healthcare premiums. You stated a desire to attract quality and more diverse board members. That was exactly my logic in offering benefits to paraprofessionals and reasonable premiums for teachers as well. We need to attract paraprofessionals who will stay and care for students rather than look for jobs with benefits. Your voting benefits for yourselves is a very hurtful injustice.
On May 3rd, I was recognized for 20 years of service to RCS. On May 4th, which incidentally was Librarian Appreciation Day, I was informed that the district was cutting librarian positions down to 1 for the district. 2 elementary positions and 1 intermediate position would be eliminated. At first, the elementary librarians were informed they would be replaced with PE teachers. When questioned further about what motivated this decision, the response was the board wanted the kids to have more movement. On May 9th, the administration changed their plan to something that may seem a little more palatable. They determined they would replace librarians with interventionists, not even understanding that elementary librarians covered preps and interventionists could not fill that void. This winter, librarians were asked to take release time to familiarize ourselves with Indiana's computer science standards and develop curriculum maps for those standards. We were tasked with the expectation to oversee and or actually teach those standards at the elementary and middle school levels. Who will take responsibilities for those standards now? Will it be the interventionists? Or will it go to paraprofessionals who have no teaching certification? Who will create the lesson plans and monitor their implementation? Some of our paras are already telling us they will not return if we are gone. It took 3 months for my principal to find a para for me this year. Speaking of technology, librarians are technology consultants in elementary and middle school buildings. We are the go-to people with Canvas questions and computer AV issues. We work with the computer technicians to keep students and teacher tech running. A teacher called me last week with a Canvas problem. She said, "Jody, what are we going to do without your computer help next year?" That's a good question. I don't think the administration nor the board understands how deeply librarians are embedded into our school's mission and culture. We are advisors for yearbooks and honor societies. We enrich children's education with maker spaces and media projects. We host book fairs and aid in planning literacy nights, not to mention managing the collection, ordering books, and supporting the curriculum through library services. We promote reading for the love of lifelong reading. In fact, our elementary should have full-time librarians in every building. We support our teachers and students academically, socially, and yes, even spiritually. Early this year, Hibbard's early college program was dismantled and replaced with a STEM academy. The Hibbard teachers were on board with this and understood they would lead the way in making this a viable program for RCS students. Now, at the end of the year, they are discovering that early college students may be sent back to their home schools and their teachers will be displaced. It seems no regard was given to parents and their students, many of whom are from diverse cultures and backgrounds. Early college has been a lifeline to students who have the potential to do great things, but they need assistance opening doors to opportunity. In both the librarian decision and the early college decision, there seems to be no clear goal, plan, or motivation for displacing these teachers. The decisions do not make sense and no explanation has been offered. Instead, two groups of highly qualified, effective veteran teachers are being displaced, potentially to fill positions they have not taught in decades or have never taught. We need teachers in positions where they can make the greatest impact on our students. At Test, we lost 9 teachers this school year, 7 of whom have left our district. 2 of those positions were never filled. Can we really afford to treat the teachers who have made a long-term commitment to our corporation, our students, and our community as if they have no value? One must wonder what staffing will look like next year when teachers do not choose Richmond Community Schools as a place to build a career. Members of the board, especially those members who are teachers, it is time to wake up, look around, and start asking questions. The future of this community depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emily Christian.
Hi, I'm Emily, self-appointed president of the Angry Moms Club of RCS. 10 years running, I think. I've been a big supporter of this board for years and years. I love you all as people, but I've got to say the past few weeks, month, I guess, have been rough. I'm sorry, I always think I'm going to plan ahead what I'm going to say, and then I don't. I feel like as employees at RCS, we're getting kind of slapped, and it's starting to feel personal. We hear that we're getting dollar insurance for you guys, and then we're displacing quality teachers, librarians, etc. And we let them all know during Teacher Appreciation Week, we appreciate you, but we want to appreciate you somewhere else. So I don't have much more to say, but I hope that we can find a point where we can actually appreciate the staff of RCS and show it in a quality way so that we can do the best for our RCS students. I feel like the rug's been ripped out from under us many times. We've changed the way that we have structured the schools. We've changed where kids are going. We're trying to get past COVID still with grades, etc., getting kids back up to grade level at this point. And I feel like taking our librarians away is going to hurt us. I feel like moving early college kids from the program that they have been settled in at this point, it's going to lower our scores. It's going to make life rougher on our students and our teachers. Last.
Thank you all. Moving on to 4 consent items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I come before you this evening to ask for approval. Consent items 4.01, 4.02, as well as the addendum, and 4.03 as presented, sir.
Have been entertained a motion.
Motion, we approve the consent items with the addendum.
Motion by Brad Walton. Second by Jeff Slifer. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, in regards to grants, I just want to thank Reed Health for their grant as well as Tri-Kappa. Very generous organizations.
Thank you. Anything else? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5, action items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, come before you to ask that we allow Mr. Scout to present item 5.01, the RHS Board of Florida replacements. Mr. Scout.
Good evening. Tonight before you is the contract for the RHS corridor flooring on the 3rd floor. This is with Epoxy SI. It was approved by the board. The bid was awarded at the April 27th meeting. So tonight it's my recommendation that the Board of School Trustees approves the contract with Epoxy SI as it has been presented.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Slifer.
I'll second.
Second by Brad Walton. Any questions or comments?
I think not that, I don't want to rehash anything, but I think there was a lot of discussion on this project. It really one of the first discussions that went through facilities, went through finance. This terrazzo was a big option that we looked at. Although this is just a 3rd floor. I think we saw some of the promise of what that communication can bring and the organization of it. It was interesting to hear we had many different opinions, but here we are with the result. So
One of the big advantages of this will be the maintenance, and it's very easy to maintain. We're not have to dedicate, dozens, hundreds of man hours to waxing and polishing. It's just simple scrubbing over it.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. On to item 5.02, 2022-2023 Student Code of Conduct. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Ms. Jennifer O'Brien come before us to ask for approval. 5.02 there, Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you. Tonight I bring to you the recommendation for the 2022-2023 RCS Uniform Code of Student Conduct. There are no recommended changes this year other than board member names and dates that have been updated. This has been brought to corporate discussion twice. And tonight I ask for your approval.
Thank you. I'll make the motion. Motion by Jeff Slifer,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Excuse me. 5103, Dr. Wright.
Special Limit Trustee, I ask that Mr. Scout rejoin the form for approval of item 5.03 as presented, Mr. Scout.
Okay, before you tonight is the consulting agreement with Curtis and Livers for the 2022-2023 school year. This service is provided for special education services and is before you tonight for approval.
Thank you. I'll make the motion. Motion by Jeff Slifer,
Second.
second by Kristen Rutten. Any questions or comments?
This is it's for the special education, you said? Is this the ones that we're contracting out?
They assist with data.
Oh, it's the data piece. I got you.
And is this a new vendor?
No.
Okay.
That's what I.
Any additional questions or comments?
Just that there are 6 of us. You've been saying so.
Thank you, Mr. Morton.
I got it.
You corrected it. Thank you.
We got a good editor.
All right.
So I didn't mean to throw you out.
You're throwing me off.
Trying to help you.
Seeing or hearing no additional comments, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, sir.
Actually,
Moving on to policy review and update. We have 2 for second reading. There was
How about I make a motion that we combine 601, policy 6460, and 6.02, policy 7453 for final approval.
I'll second.
motion by Jeff Slifer, second by Brad Walton. Any questions or comments?
Just that when I think when we were discussing the first read last time, we talked about sounds like there's some interest in having the facilities committee continue to look into how we can do a better job with our natural resources, working on some recycling pieces and things like that.
I don't believe there's been a facilities.
No, I didn't mean there was one, just to bring it up again to say.
Just trying to point something out to you.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for making sure that that's still being addressed.
And in addition to that, not that a little bit off subject, but we found a contact for some solar information at the ISBA meeting last week. So we need to pass that on to facilities as well. Basically, they do a free solar assessment. That'd be a great place to start.
Right. Yeah, we want to look into just if that's a viable option for us or not. So that would also be facilities.
Exactly.
Yeah, funny.
Good time for facilities meetings.
Yes.
Like our agenda as well. So with that said, any additional questions or comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Seeing we have 2 first reading policies.
How about I make a motion that we combine those two? 6.03, policy 8550, 6.04, policy 8700. Approve first reading, pass the second reading.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
I'll second.
second by Brad Walton. And just to clarify, policy 8550 is on charter schools. And policy 8700 is relations with special interest groups. So any questions or comments on those two policies? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion passes 6-0. All right, trying to keep up with you guys. Moving on to board reports and old business. Open the floor for board members.
I wanted to mention, a couple weeks ago, Kristen and I, Dr. Wright, we all met up in Muncie, went to Southside Middle School in order to view the Meridian Health clinics there. Exciting to see what the possibilities are and to see if that's going to be a good fit for our schools or not. And thought we probably need to start talking about that. And Jeff, were you able to go yesterday as well?
I gotta tell everybody publicly though. Yeah, we all noticed we got a change notice. I thought it was just a time notice from 1 to 1:30, but it was a date change. So I don't know. So I started heading towards Muncie and it was canceled. It's pushed back.
Okay.
So
sorry.
it is. It happened.
Well, we can
Jennifer's laughing at me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's pushed back to the 24th. They
Okay.
had to reschedule. From what I understand, it wasn't us. And I know there's still some stuff behind the scenes that's working on that we're not privy to right now. But
Yeah, we're definitely in the fact-finding phase
Yeah,
of this, but it was good to see firsthand what it looks like and how it could possibly play out. Yeah, there are a lot of advantages. We're digging into the disadvantages, just to see.
Well, and I like the fact that the nurses are already involved. They've had a conference, so at least they'll be a little better prepared to ask questions when they're up there. Because
So you're saying that our school nurses are already involved in that conversation,
they've already,
and they're going to be going up with you? Okay.
well, not with, we're going up separately, but
Right.
at the same time.
Yeah, because they want to get there on the right day.
Well, they want to get there on the right day, not be late. But no, they, according to talking to Kim earlier, they were able to have a conference with Meridian already. So I think it's good. It's good that they can have some independent time to think about it, some time to come create their own questions. Because if we don't have ask the right questions at the right time, when we're actually talking to the people that where it works now, we may miss some. So I'm grateful for that. I think that's a great thing.
Mr. Schleifer and Mr. Stoltz and board, just to further enlighten, we did indeed have a conference with our current RCS school nurses. Their representative team, along with Meridian Health Services team of representatives, and just as we had done when Meridian had presented to us the option, the school-based health clinic option, they too took them through a litany peppering of questions. And just as we too were rather suspicious, especially when we hear the term free, our school nurses too posed even more questions, more with breadth and depth. And I thought that of the conference, it definitely is in lieu of a visit. We all will make 2 weeks from yesterday. I think it's the 24th, Tuesday the 24th, in which we will travel up with our school nurses, so they too can see what we also there at in Muncie School community. In addition, I asked that Meridian Health and Mr. Suttles allow our school nurses with the Muncie Community School nurses that indeed have already made the transition from Muncie Community Schools to Meridian Health Services. And Meridian Health indeed agreed to that. I took a step further and asked Mr. Suttles of Meridian Health if indeed they could have a private conversation away from quote unquote the brass, so that they could have candid conversations. And Meridian Health continued to say yes. And I think that's one of the themes with this experience, that they have consistently, every repeatedly stated that yes, indeed, we can provide and accommodate. One of the questions that was posed, and those of us in education understand how difficult it also is, you ask any principal, and they'll share with you the challenge of maintaining a school nurse along with all the other shortages that we're aware of. But Meridian Health has consistently stated that they are able to not only provide nursing, but provide facilities, equipment, and the type of care that our community otherwise may not be afforded. And so, again, to mention, as Mr. Stoll said, we are still indeed in the fact-finding exploratory phase. And so we'll be coming back with information.
Now, as I've been reading the last document that was sent out a couple weeks ago, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be wise or maybe beneficial for us if it gets added to the finance committee as well, and maybe have an opportunity to talk to the finance person at Muncie. I mean, because I'm sure, I mean, Karen knows how things are affected here on free services. So, I mean,
I know Mr. Durham.
So I thought maybe it might be something that maybe, if not the whole, it may not even be a bad idea for the whole finance committee to be involved in that.
We've already determined the facilities committee should be looking into this, just as we're needing to see where can these clinics be housed in general. Yeah, are there any other committees that need to be involved?
I think that would be good for right now.
Well, actually, we did talk about more committees. So just, in communicating, again, if we proceed, just making sure that things are clearly communicated in what we're offering, what we're not offering, how things work.
Yeah. Well, we got to clearly understand. It's hard for me to believe that one service can provide everything. So maybe an understanding of where we may have to provide some resources.
Somewhat similar to Muncie, this would be a phased-in approach, I believe. I think Muncie started with a few schools and is planning to expand next year. I think our idea would be start with the basic service possibly, and then look at additional services expansion as we have success, or not, then we can always go back.
I started with one little secondary school, 2 elementary. This upcoming fall, they'll be in all schools. And to your point, Mr. Stoltz, they simply come in, evaluate the current school clinics that we have, the space that's already provided. And as they mentioned, they indeed can make that space work for them, along with recommendations of potentially other spaces to explore.
Any other board reports?
Yeah, let's just add to the facilities group. I mean, over the last several weeks, we had given approval. The school system is under a contract with an engineering firm to take a look at the design of the system for Dennis. And the process of the design is for them to go to use Glenn's terms for pipe system. I think that's how he determined it. So there's some things that we're going to have to go through facilities and finance, as well as what that impacts and how that affects our budget and how much money we have. But anyway, the direction of the design is they're going to, their design is putting in a 4-pipe system with eventually vertical ventilators. But it's not all going to be done at once. There's a lot of questions that have to be asked, but at least that's the direction of the design. So that's something that we also need to add to those 2 facilities, or to those 2.
And for the public, that's a major investment in HVAC at Dennis.
And what it's going to do is allow us to heat and cool at the same time.
Which is primarily ESSER funds.
Which is, now you've got to shut the system down and fully convert it over between heat or cool. So it's allow you to heat different, or heat and cool different areas of the building at the same time.
And we have $3 million budget for it. But,
sure. I didn't know if they missed that, but it was about.
Well, I'm sorry, I probably should have been more in detail, but I just wanted to at least make it out that part of what we need to force ourselves to is communicate out what we're doing in our meetings. So as I was going through the list of stuff that we're discussing, I wanted to get that because I've met with the architect and the engineer, Dr. Wright. We've all got a report that's been emailed to us that I forget how many, it's 30 pages. I'm sure it's a good nighttime reading for you. But that has the information in there, but also want to make the public aware. And it would be nice for the staff to be able to have a room that they're comfortable in instead of they're hot, they're cold, they're, you know, or we're trying to control temperature in a zone versus an individual room, those types of things. So allows them to be aware of what we're thinking, where we're going.
Thank you.
I think while we don't respond to individual public comment, we've had for 2 board meetings now, we've had multiple individual comments about the insurance issue. And I just would like to ask if there's anybody that wants to talk on that and kind of address that. I think we're in a place where we need to speak on that at some level. I know we have sent out, there was a referenced email. So we've sent out an email statement to staff, but I think we owe it to the folks who have elected us to have a conversation about it on some level, as far as what was the idea behind that, and where we are with that.
Keith, do you want to, go ahead.
Honestly, I prefer if somebody else did.
Well, I worked with Mr. Cross to put the resolution together back in January, after the board had, I think after a retreat, the board compensation is limited by the state. And so you start there. And so when board members had mentioned that this was a benefit that was received and then given up by the board, it seemed reasonable to bring that back, since we had accomplished some of the things, not everything, some of the things that we that spurred us to give up the benefit. And so I think after 15 years without, it was reinstated as a way to adjust board compensation. I think as the board, we had, I believe, 2 seats were unopposed, and the 2 at-large seats only had 1 other person running. And so I think part of it's hard for the public to understand. I mean, you guys see us twice a month here. However, there's a lot more work that goes behind the scenes. And so it's a way to adjust compensation slightly. That was reinstated. We were reminded that administration will also receive that benefit. And we decided that wasn't. We have also adjusted administration wages in that time frame. They've more or less mirrored the teacher wages. And so as an effort to try to address board compensation that was fair, not particularly costly. I know any amount is a cost, but that was decided to move forward. I understand it's caused a lot of unrest and unsettlement with people, and I hear that and I respect that. I think the board has wanted to take an opportunity to maybe even readdress that, and like with anything else, we'll meet probably either in a special session or an executive board and kind of throw out, would the board like to revisit compensation? It would require another resolution, and then it would require work by multiple parties. So I guess there was never the intent to slight anyone are to, put the board at a different level. It's just, we're limited. I know that the state tried to make an adjustment early on to adjust board compensation, and it failed. I don't even think it got into a bill. So that comes up from time to time, and no one's looking to make this a full-time job. But at some point, you give up a very number of things as a board member. And while you're not looking to be compensated by an hourly rate, I think a reasonable combination is fair. And so I'll put that out there. I don't know if anyone would like to add or if I misspoke, but I think it was reasonable and fair. And I think if other groups would like to seek a similar insurance policy, that's always possible. It's just, there's one pot of money. So, if people want low priced insurance, then that would come at the expense of a raise possibly. But
Well, there's a lot of, and I was one of the board members as well as Aaron. That
We can't hear.
speak up a little bit.
I feel like I'm screaming. I was one of the board members as well as Aaron that was on the board prior to us abandoning the insurance, because at the time we were going through the lean years where we were approaching the staff with, do you get a raise or do we absorb the cost of the insurance increase? And, there were several years there that it was tight on the money. And so we had a big adjustments on the rates one year, and we decided at the time, since we're going to our staff and saying we cannot provide them monies or raises or absorb all of the cost of the insurance. And historically, we've been fairly fair with that, in my opinion. I think that we have pretty good insurance. We have an employee trust set up that is controlled by the employees. The employees determine what options they want in it. The board has nothing to do with it. The board has, our only responsibility is to fund it. So, so if they decide, and I'm not bashing good or bad or whatever, but so once the decision is made on how much the corporation funds the employee trust and the payments, I mean, we even had periods of time where we would go through and offer insurance holidays for the employees, and the corporation pick up the share, so they had months they didn't even have to pay the insurance premium. I know that happened at least 3 times. I could be wrong, maybe it was 2, maybe it was 4, but I was saying, when you look at the whole discussion over the last 15 years, let's say, there's a lot of other factors that go into it. It's like the survey, and I appreciate the fact that it takes courage for her to put this survey together and send it out. And I don't begrudge anybody speaking their opinion, but I wrote a couple of notes down because there's just so many things that people look at that every little bit affects it. She brought up the educational fund, the operation. Well, yeah, but go back a few years and we had capital projects, we had transportation, we had all of those funds that were based off of tax. So the shifting of that is we had payroll that was in one fund versus another. Now, the educational fund has taken out all of the payroll that used to be in it. And back when it was the general fund, it had maintenance in it, it had support staff in it, it had administrators in it. Whereas now the educational fund only has students that are directly in touch with students. So if I'm not wrong, everyone sitting at this table that's an administrator is not funded out of that. They're funded out of the, right? I'm saying that right? But it doesn't. Well, it does matter, but what I'm saying is the whole point is there's so many things that go into that when you say we're pulling out $6 million, well, that's not really true because we pulled out money that funds the whole school system and all of its staff. So, so that's a little different. And so the whole process of how all the funding works and And all of that over the years has changed. So it's not really fair to do a comparison. And it's not that anybody's, she's not misleading us because she is true. We are transferring that from one fund to another. But in reality, that happened a long time ago by the state. So I think if you take a look at that and you take the fact that, when I first joined the school board, I was making $2,000 a year and had insurance for $1. That's what it was. So we're not that much different today. So I can understand that, but then the other piece of that is there's other issues that we have to address. And a big one, and the paraprofessionals are the ones that have my heart. Paraprofessionals stand up and say, I understand that they're not making what they would like to make. But we've also had gone through periods that they're, I think one year we gave them a $2 raise, and we recognize that and we're trying. But then I go and look and say, okay, let's just say we want to look at adding the paraprofessionals to the school insurance. What would that cost? I mean, that would displace teachers. That would put class sizes from our average of 16, 17, 18, 19 in class now to 23, 24, 25. I mean, there's trade-offs. And I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. I'm just saying there's just more issues to it than what it appears. So, one of the things that's kind of bothered me is, Kelly stood up the other day, the REA president, and said, we refused a meeting with her. Well, technically that's correct, but it was a month after everything was approved. What I don't understand is why didn't she request the meeting back when we were talking about it? That would have been the appropriate time to have the meeting and have the conversation. I mean, to stand up and say that we didn't meet with her and then we approved the insurance, that's not true. So, I don't want to be contentious. And I do believe that we need to take a look at it. And I think we need to discuss it. But I also think there's a lot of education that needs to take place both ways. And at some point, if we decide as a group that it isn't worth that, then we can revote it, but we shouldn't do it just reactionary. I think it needs to be thought out. So that's my 2 cents.
The board has suspended the rules. So I would like to ask, since you suspended the rules for your purposes, I'd like to have the opportunity to speak.
I don't understand suspend the rules.
He's just asked it's not on the agenda. He just asked for a moment for the board to have discussion on something.
We're doing board reports and old business.
Yeah, it's board reports. I was referring to, I didn't say I wanted to respond to anyone specifically. I said I felt as though over the last 2 weeks, we have had multiple people speaking. This is clearly an issue that I would like us to address. That's for clarification point. That's my point. I don't see that as suspending the rules. I see that as over the last 2 meetings, people have spoke on this multiple.
Well, actually, you said we don't normally do this, and you asked for permission, so it's clear.
Guys, this isn't a dialogue. I'm sorry.
That's the problem. There is no dialogue.
Look, I appreciate you bringing it up, Keith, and I do think we need to have a conversation about it in the future. And
I think the other thing that's important to me, because what worries me in the past, 3 to 4 weeks, I'm seeing lots of other things that we're trying to make progress on. And this is what really worries me, is that this decision is hanging up lots of other things. So I think it's important to clarify that this decision is a decision that is on the 7 of us. It is not on Dr. Wright. It's not on any administrator in any building. And I worry that this decision is reverberating throughout it for lots of other reasons. So I think it's important to acknowledge that there is no administrator in any building, this one or otherwise, that had say in this decision.
So someone earlier talked about, and I'm not going to use names, but somebody in public commentary asked the teachers on the board to start thinking like teachers. And, you know, there are several of us that have been in that classroom, and I was in the classroom when the board suspended this policy. And it sent a decent message. I was still pretty ticked off because there was no money to give teachers. And subsequently, I was here 6 years as a teacher, and when I left, I was still making year 3 salary. I left for greener pastures and more money. But since then, the teachers and staff and administrators have all gotten raises every year, whether it be stipend, whether it be base pay. You know, a lot of the stuff going around on the stats or the numbers that are floating around, you know, in 15-16, there was an $800 to the base and a $430 stipend. In 16-17, $800. 17-18, 1,000 on the base. 18-19, 500 on the base. 19-20, there was 3,000 on the base. 20-21, 500 on the base. 21-22, 2,000 on the base, and next year 750 on the base. How long have you been on the board, Mr. Slifer?
I'm ending 16 years.
Long time.
Okay. You guys have made the same dollar amount for 20 years, at least, Aaron, since you've been, or 24 years, whatever, on the board. And you guys had dollar insurance at one point. Since that time, when the policy was suspended and board members had to start paying for their insurance, teachers, staff, administrators have all had significant raises. Okay. And the board has had 0. The only thing that has gone up is cost of insurance, as everyone in this room knows. And it's getting to the point where board members were paying to be on the board if they elected insurance. No one does this for the money, but at the same time, I empathize. I really do. But at the same time, it's rough to be on a board that demands anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a week out of your time. A full Saturday every couple months for retreats and evenings away from your kids and family and things like that. And to be absolutely no compensation is kind of rough. And it was pretty apparent in the last election cycle. We had 3 people vying for 2 spots, and 2 board members, including myself, ran out of vote. You know, when I was in the classroom, before I ever got involved with the board, I was always under the assumption that, you know, board members made a decent amount. I always thought you guys got around 10,000 a year. I was uninformed. It's not that way. It's I always thought you only met a couple hours a month, twice a month. It is the farthest thing from the truth. There is so much behind the scenes work that board members do, that not unlike teachers and staff. I mean, everybody talks about teachers only working 10 months a year. That's the farthest thing from the truth. We all know teachers work year round. We all know the hours past the contractual day that teachers and staff put in. We all know that. Well, it's a two-way street. There's so much more that goes on at this level than I ever imagined. And it's just,
Well, I
see both sides of it. I struggle.
Well, I think to Keith's point, I think we all agree that we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it. There's a process that we need to go through. I think it should just, for now, just limit it at this.
Not to conclude, but we are planning, I believe, next month a forum, if you will, or open dialogue, where we'll sit down with anyone that's interested in being a board member. There's 3 seats that'll be up this fall. Application deadline is in August, and just to give people an idea of what's involved to be a board member, what the compensation is, what the time requirements are, what the expectations are, and so hopefully, if you're interested, and we may have some in the audience today, that they can make an informed choice as if they'd like to be a school board member. I mean, we're all on the same team, and we're trying to do the absolute best we can. I know we don't always agree, and that's why we've been elected to represent everyone in Richmond. And that's why we're up for election every 4 years. And you don't have to always agree, but I think we're trying to do the best we can for the children of Richmond, Indiana. And
Mr. Slifer, you've been on the board long enough to know that in past practice, I've been allowed to speak at board meetings. In fact, I've been encouraged to do so with questions and answers. So I just want to request one more time for my due diligence. Will the board allow me to address?
I'm good with that.
okay, you can have 5 minutes. Come to the podium.
I just want to address some of the comments that have been made. First of all, I think it's important to remind everybody that this is a public servant's position, not a job. There's not a salary for being on the board. There never has been. It's a stipend and you get a per diem. This idea that I haven't had a raise as a board member is ludicrous. It's a public service. You ran for this position to serve your community. And so when I hear that, it's really upsetting because, you know, I'm a history teacher, but I was a political science person, a political science minor, and I think we need to clear up what you all are doing here in terms of trying to sell this to the community as we needed more money because of the hours we put in. When you go into this, you know you're going into this to serve the community. And it's a noble thing to do. So I commend all of you for doing that. And it's not an easy thing to do, just like this isn't an easy thing to do. But sometimes, you know, you serve. And this is for you, that moment of service. But to say to teachers, we as board members haven't had a raise. When that gets out to my members and other teachers, I'm just telling you guys, hold on, because you think it was bad before you came in here tonight. That is not going to go over well with anybody. And the idea that you're trying to attract people to serve on the board by giving them something, we're trying to encourage people to run for the board so they can get something. How do we lose sight of what public service is? It's not I'm going to do this so I can get something out of it. It's I'm going to do this because I want to serve my community. I want to make my community better. That's what you get out of it. It's insulting to me when I read, and to the teachers, quite honestly, when they read the statement from the board where it says, We hope to appeal to more community members by making running for school board a more viable option for those interested in education. And it talks about by looking for a more diverse board, and that this was an effort to do that. The implication is the only reason people of diversity might serve is because they're going to get something. Are you kidding me? I just got to say it, folks. Shame. Shame. I also want to deal with the fact that the board, Mr. Slifer, with all due respect, the only reason the information came a month late is because of the way you guys conduct these meetings. The New York Times says democracy dies in darkness. That's their slogan. I had to dig to find the resolution. And when I found the resolution, I did my due diligence and I reached out to some people. Nobody wanted to meet with me. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I requested to meet with the board. I was told that it wouldn't be prudent to talk to the president of the teachers union, where almost 90% of the teachers are in the union. It wouldn't be prudent to talk to me. And to say that the reason that you wouldn't is because it was a month after the resolution was passed. So we're saying that when people make judgments and do things, that from that point forward, we can't engage in conversation. There's nothing to say you all can't revisit this. And I would encourage you to do so, because the harm that this has done is immense. Now, Keith made the comment that this is trickling into other things. And truth is, it is, but other things are also being opposed because of their own lack of merit. 1 minute. The other thing I want to draw the board's attention to, and I have brought this to the attention of people who will talk to me. I have not been able to bring it to the attention of the board because you won't talk to me. And that is, you're not even following your own rules. Because in your own resolution, it says you have to bring this to the trustees of the group health insurance plan, which would be Dr. Wright, Mrs. Stewart, and me. And that this can't start until this happens. It's retroactive to January 1. My question is, has it started? Because if it has, you haven't followed your own rules and the rules of the plan. I've tried to reach out and talk to the board about this. I would rather have these conversations in civil settings where we both agree to meet, where we're doing things the right way. But when you won't talk to me, you leave me no choice.
Thank you.
To clarify, I wasn't expressing that the board members need a raise. That wasn't what I was trying to relay. What I was trying to relay was, in 15 years, you went from a $2,000 stipend and dollar insurance, and then 15 years later, it's actually less than that. It's, there was some, I was stop.
Well, I appreciate folks sharing and having a conversation, a public conversation. I also want to say I appreciate folks who are up here and making statements, who are willing to come up, and it concerns me with the work that we've been working on for multiple years, when people say things like there's a fear to speak about an issue in public, because I don't want any staff member in any building anywhere that works for us to have a concern. If they're concerned about a policy, I would reach out to us individually, which happens as well. But I don't think there should be any concern for anyone fearing any sort of retribution for coming up and having something to say, to give their input. And I don't think in my workings with anyone on this board, I don't think anybody has that sort of outlook, like, well, somebody said something to this board, we need to, I've never had any inkling that that was the case. So I think that's another thing I want to mention, that this has been a cloud for a while, and I think it remains a cloud. But regardless of whatever clouds we have, I don't think anybody at any time should be concerned that they can't come and say their piece. That's why we do this.
I'd like to just add on to that, that I appreciate any conversation. Anyone who has come to me, sent me a message, I've had conversation with. I've called everyone back. I've emailed everyone back. Like, we want to hear, what you have to say. And I think the public commentary or reaching out to us as a board or individually is, that's how we hear what you're thinking, and we can start to understand both sides.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you all. Moving on to preview of upcoming meeting events.
President Weber, trustees, our next meeting will be Wednesday, May the 25th, right here in the boardroom. And I'm going to ask that our communication specialist, Mrs. Bridget Hazel Baker, join us back at the podium to share bell ringer activities, as well as many amazing highlights that are indeed occurring within our school system. This is Hazel Baker. Welcome back.
Hello. As far as a preview of some upcoming events, we're having Boston Run is tomorrow. That race starts at 10 o'clock tomorrow at Crestdale. There will also be an RHS choir concert tomorrow night at Civic Hall at 7 p.m. Richmond High School will also be hosting their prom this Saturday at the Coleman Center at Wayne County Fairgrounds. They're still needing some chaperones, so maybe we'll get down the road. Next Tuesday, the Richmond High School Orchestra will also be performing at Civic Hall. Richmond High School will be hosting their Career Education Award program next Wednesday at Civic Hall. The Charles Elementary School National Elementary Honor Society will be having their induction ceremony also next Thursday. And then Richmond High School will have their Honors and Awards ceremony next Friday at Civic Hall. And then May 24th, Tuesday, May 24th, before our board meeting, the Richmond Adult Education Program will be hosting their graduation ceremony of their graduates. And then lastly, Wednesday, May 25th, the early college program will be having a celebration at Hibbert. And then as far as moving forward to bell ringer.
Please do.
Congratulations to Mr. Andrew Graber, the Dennis students and the Dennis staff for hosting a very successful 100th anniversary celebration last night at Dennis. And then also happy National School Nurses Day to RCS nurses, Deb Strasner, Christy Anderson, Alicia Barnett, Teresa Benedict, Marcella Bullock, Sarah Mills, Laura Ogden, and Michelle Wright. And then also congratulations to 7 of the Richmond Area Career Center students who successfully completed the Belden Ivy Tech internship program. They now have the opportunity to work full-time at Belden. And then lastly, we just had 3 seniors sign their letters of intent for college. That was Mackenzie Laughlin. She's committed to Earlham College. Savannah Blair committed to Arlington College, and Jake Necessary committed to Ohio University. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to just say thank you to the board for your representation. There are a ton of events that we're asked to attend in May especially, and I know we all would love to be to all of them or at all of them and can't. So I really appreciate the collective representation. I know several people were at the 100th anniversary yesterday, and it just I'm proud to be part of a group that shows up. That's all.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the cause? Meeting adjourned.
Right.